Hello everyone, welcome to your next little video on Excel. Hopefully by now you've got to this bit and we did a few different statistical formulas and so on. So now we're going to do a thing called absolute reference. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to ask you to stick a new sheet in. If you've got the statistics sheet open, because that's where we got up to in the last one, if you then go along and hit the little plus button, it'll add in a new sheet like there in mine, and it should go just after the statistics one. We're going to firstly rename that sheet, so let's do that. Double click on the sheet 3 or whatever numbers come up with you and call that absolute F4. If you haven't heard of F4 before, there's a reason we've called it that, and we'll get to that now. Okay, so that's us named the sheet. And then what we'll do is we'll put a couple of headings in there. So we'll put sales, we'll put VAT, and we'll put total. What I'll do now is, and probably do the same for yourself, is zoom in a wee bit. Oh, sorry. Zoom in a wee bit there. Just using the plus button at the bottom. And we need to have 21 rows visible. So about to there. Then under where it says sales, put 50. Enter. Put 100. And we want to fill that down all the way down to row 21. What we don't want to have to do though is put 50, 100, 150. Excel will do that for us. It will recognise that this is starting a little series here. So if we select those two, and then using your fill handle, hover over the bottom right hand side till that cross goes like that, and drag from there down to row 21. Let go. Excel, clever that, has recognised that the 50 and the 100 is going up in a series, and it's just continued on for us. On that, by the way, if you ever want just to copy the cells, you've got that little options box there, and instead of fill series, you could actually just go copy and it'll just put what we've done. But we want fill series, so I'm going to go back to that just now. There we go. Now, just up here, I'm going to put VAT rate as a heading or label. And I'm going to, in this cell next to it, I'm going to put 20%. Okay. We want to work out what the VAT is on all these sales figures here. Now, for those of you who haven't had a lot of Excel experience before, we've deliberately put the 20%. We want to use this 20% as part of the formula. We do not put that in the same cell as VAT rate. VAT rate is obviously text. 20% is a mathematical percentage, and we want to use what's in that cell. Try and get the logic in your head that we're not actually going to multiply 50 by 20%. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply 50 by what happens to be in this cell. It'll make sense in a wee minute, but if you can get that logic in your head, that's really important. Okay, so we want to start off, we want to work out what 20% of 50 is. So as with all formulas, in that cell there, start by putting equals. Remember I said no more keying in, just use your mouse. So we're going to click on that 50, and then we're going to put times, and then click on that 20%. Enter, 10. I think everybody's quite happy that 20% or a fifth of 50 is 10. Now, obviously, we don't want to have to repeat all the way down there. For those of you who know what you're doing, I'm about to do this wrong, but there's a reason. Now, if I just double click that, fills all the way down, and obviously it's wrong because 20% of 100 isn't 0. Let me put the formulas on, I'll show you where it's gone wrong. There we go. Okay, so that first one, we're happy enough with, 50, A2 times F1. Now then, unfortunately though, when we went down to the next one, A3, which is the 100 times, and that started to move as well. And that one started to move, and that one started to move. So it's not stuck on this 20%. You might notice as well, once I've put these formulas on, that 20%, when you show formulas, becomes 0.2. Do you remember back to primary 7? Sorry. Multiplying something by 0.2 is the same as finding 20% of it. So that's why Excel does that. So we're happy enough on the left-hand side. We want A2 to go to A3 to go to A4. But we want this F1 to be frozen on there, or absolutely fixed. So I'm going to turn the formulas off again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear all of these out. To just highlight them all, right click, and then clear contents. So we need to do it slightly differently. Starts off the same way, equals 50, or what happens to be in that cell, beg pardon, times that. Before we press enter, you want to do something to your keypad. Now, depends what device you're on. We're looking for the key along the top there that says F4. If you're on a desktop with a great big standard keyboard, it will just be the F4. If you're on a smaller keyboard like a laptop, you'll have a little bottom left-hand corner, 2 in is a little FN button, that's function. Laptop keyboards tend to be a bit more condensed, so they have 2 or 3 things often on each key. So in order to access the F4, you hold down FN first. And I'm going to do that. I'll show you what happens. I'll go FN, F4. And if you can see on, hopefully it's zoomed in enough, you've got a $sign in front of the F and in front of the 1 there. Mac users. Mac users is Command T. I'm going to put all that as a little chat on there. So, excuse me, the Windows is F4 or FN F4, depending on the size of your keyboard. A Mac uses Command T. But what we're looking for is for these 2 $signs there. I'll press enter. There we go. Now, double click that. Now you can just drag it down, and let's face it, we've only got 20 rows, so we could just drag it down. But when we start dealing with big data sets with 20,000 rows, you want to use the keyboard shortcuts. You don't want to be dragging these things down forever. So if we just double click on there, it'll fill it all in. And let me just put the formulas on and I'll show you what's happened. So the A2 has moved to A3, has moved to A4. That's exactly what we wanted. But this F1 there, that stayed frozen or absolutely fixed on here. And that's what we call it. We call it an absolute reference. That's why I've got you to call the sheet absolute F4. Mac users, you might want to call that absolute Command T or whatever, anything that's going to help you remember that side of things. One thing on there though, let me just on here. If I put, I'll do that again in here. So equals A2, A2 times that. Now, I can actually cycle through these absolute references. I'm just going to show you this. This is a little bit more advanced, but so the first one, $'s in front of both. If I hit it again, I've got $1 just in front of one, in front of another, and then it takes it off altogether, and then cycles back to there. In effect, what that's doing is you've got F and 1. One is the horizontal reference, one is the vertical reference. So as we go further down, there are times that we just want to freeze either the vertical or the horizontal reference. At this point, we don't. At this point, I would just make sure that your $signs have ended up in front of both. And when you do that, as I say, if I take these formulas back off again, I'll finish that off, take the formulas back off again, it all works nicely there. Now, total. If we've got sales and VAT on top of that, we're just going to add the 2 together, equals that one plus that one, enter, obviously gives us the total. Once again, double click bottom right hand corner and it fills it in. Now, remember I said earlier that we haven't actually multiplied things by 20%. What we've done is we've multiplied by what happens to be in this box, which I'll make yellow. Doesn't matter what's in there, formula still works. Let's see, whoever's in charge, Nicola, Boris, whoever it is at the time, has decided to give us a little bit of a break on there. And we're going to change the VAT rate. And she or he has woken up and said, you know what, I'm going to make the VAT rate 12%. What we don't want to have to do is go through every spreadsheet we've ever created and change all the formulas. We're just changing one cell. Change it to 12%, hit enter, everything sorts itself out. The VAT recalculates, the totals recalculate, and the only thing we've changed is one single cell. Now, I know I get a bit excited about Excel, but that's what we want to be aiming at. We want to have as few keyed in variables as possible. We want everything to link to everything else. Back when I was doing my books for my web design company, the end of the year, I used to be able to do my whole year's worth of books in about 20 minutes. Everything would be linked together. All I do is fill in my figures, press go, job done. Such a powerful thing. So remember before we were talking about, in fact, I'll show you if I put the formula back on. We were talking about relatives. Remember I had that little daft wee thing about your relatives are like you, but they're a wee bit different. Well, the relative references here, A2 to A3 to A4, they're relative to each other, and they change as I drag it down. But this one here is called an absolute reference because it's absolutely fixed. Massively, massively important within Excel, within Power BI. We need to be able to fix these things sometimes, so that's what an absolute reference is. Okay, moving on. Just do a couple more. Okay, formatting. Formatting, and again, I'll zoom in a wee bit there so you can see what I'm up to. What we've got here, we've got 3 versions of a tiny little data set. And let's go in, we'll take carrots. And we'll make it bold. We'll change the fonts. Pick something horrible. There we go. We'll center it. And we'll give it a little orange background. But what I want to do is I want that same formatting for the rest. Now, you may or may not know about this little thing there called Format Painter. And this is available not just in Excel, this works in Word, PowerPoint, all Microsoft applications. Now, if I'm just going to click that once, you see the dancing ants around there, and you get that little paintbrush, click on cucumbers, exactly the same. And it's a much better way of your spreadsheets or Power BI as we get to there, all looking very, very similar. When you're creating any data set, when you're creating any visualization, any layout or whatever, think about your end user. You want things to be as straightforward and as easy to analyze as possible. Now, the other wee thing with this Format Painter, that only worked once, okay? Because I'm clicking away now. If I want to apply that format to more than one thing at once, I'll go back and use cucumbers this time. This time, I'm going to double click Format Painter. Now, I can do it as many times as I want. You see that brush is still next to my cursor there. And to turn it off, just click that, no longer there. Handy little thing. We might also want to give these headings a little bit more space there. So at the moment, it's just the standard. If I hover over that, I think it should tell me, oh, there we go. Not quite. Anyway, it should tell me how many pixels, but if I drag, oh, there we go, hold it down, 29 pixels. Let's make it slightly bigger. I'll go for about 81. And we want to make these a little bit more obvious, these headings here. Remember back to when you're doing Word and you can align things left, right, or center. When we're talking about Excel or tables within Word as well, you've got actually 9 options. So it's not just whether it's left, right, or center. You can align them vertically and so on as well. So this one here, June, let's make it bold. We'll have a different fill color. I don't know, you pick a color, whatever you like. Excuse me. But what I want to do is I want to have that June right in the center there. So back up here, I'll take center, center, and there we go, nice and right in the center there. Now I want to apply that to all these others. Double click. There we go. Now, important though, it doesn't actually change the height or the width of the cell. We need to do that differently. But if we just want the format itself taken across, we can do it like that. It's a really handy wee thing like that. Formatting is important. As I say, we're talking all the way through here about visualizing, communicating, and so on. Excuse me. And if you can make your visualizations pleasing and easy to analyze, it's more than just making it look pretty. It's important like that. Okay, so that's your just normal formatting. And I'm going to turn that format painter off. There we go. And our next sheet along here is called conditional formatting. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a wee bit. There we go. Conditional formatting is actually, the answer's in the title. We're creating a format, a color, a font, or whatever it is, based on a condition. Those of you who've done a bit of Excel before, do you remember if statements? They're conditional statements. Same sort of idea. Okay, I would like to point out, as I put down here, these grades are all fictional, so I hope nobody gets upset by that. Okay, so we've got various tasks here. We've got grades that these fictional students have all received, and I've got a little grading scheme. In fact, merit, I'm giving that a colour yet. Let's make merit. That'll do. Right. So anybody who's got less than 30, they've failed. Anybody who's got greater than or equals to, if you've got, again, I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm up to there. That means greater than or equals to. Obviously, it was the other way around. Hopefully, you've all seen these things before, the greater than or less than. The fat side means it's greater than, the fail is less than 30, the reset is greater than or equal to 30, and so on. So what we want to do is colour all these cells based on this grading scheme. Zoom out very slightly. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll highlight all the cells. So I need a little bit more space there. Not going to give us enough yet, just about, I think. Make sure I've got everybody there. No, sorry, zoom out one little bit more. There we go. Right. So I'm going to highlight all the cells that I want to deal with. This is actually one of the visualizations, but it's actually a very, very simple, straightforward visualization. And what I want to do to start with, highlight everything that is less than 30 bright red, because I'm afraid all those students have failed. So on the Home tab, I'm going along here to conditional formatting. Highlight cells, less than, and in this case, I'll move that over there. I've said everything that's less than 30, I've changed it to 30, is bright red. That's just a light red, so let's change it. There are a few sort of default options. But what we'll do is we'll go to custom format. Then you've got the option to change the font, the border, the fill, the number. In this case, it's just a fill. And we want it to be bright red. Press OK. There we go. Everybody who's less than 30 is bright red. We haven't finished yet. We want everybody who is greater than or equals to 30 to be yellow. So back, while this is still highlighted, remember you have to have them highlighted to do this. Let's go conditional formatting, highlight cells, and it's greater than. Oh, hang on. So, beg pardon, and it is highlight cells, more rules. Greater than or equal to, what did I say it was? 30. And we want the format there to be a fill of, I think is that one, is it? Yeah. There we go. Press OK. Now, don't worry at the moment, because what we've said so far is greater than or equal to 30, everything is to be yellow. We're going to kind of overwrite that, if you like, because the next one is greater than or equal to 50 is green. So back to here, highlight cells, more rules, and we want greater than or equal to 50. On that one, format, we want is it that one? That'll do. There we go. Press OK. So you can see it's starting to build up. But again, we're going to overwrite the last ones, because those of the students, fictional students, who've got greater than 70 are getting a merit. So back to conditional formatting, highlight cells, greater than 70. We'll go custom format. And it was that one. Yep, perfect. Press OK. We can now see at an instant who failed, who's getting a reset, who's got a pass, and who's got a merit. Now, there are a lot of businesses use this sort of thing. Maybe they've got somebody who's not paid for the last 3 months, pops up in red. They might want to highlight their top 10% of their customers, pops up in green. And if these, let's just pick Alana there. Let's say I've marked that one wrong. So she didn't get 85. She only got 5. I change that. The formatting changes and updates. As I say, it's very straightforward type of visualization, but very, very useful to stick that on. Just have a quick, I use this quite a lot for my marketing schemes, but hopefully you'll be able to see all sorts of other uses for it as well. All right, this one went on slightly longer, but that's plenty for just now. Thanks very much.